I put the fun in dysfunctional, or so my wife Melissa likes to remind me during our increasingly frequent arguments. My name is Dave Harker, and I'm 35 years old with the kind of face that blends into crowds, useful for an IT systems analyst, less useful for keeping a wife's attention, apparently. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. The rain hammers against our kitchen window this Tuesday morning in our Seattle suburb, each drop like a tiny fist demanding entry. Melissa sits across from me at our breakfast table, her perfectly manicured fingers wrapped around a coffee mug that costs more than most people's weekly groceries. She's dressed in one of those real estate power suits that screams, "I sell million-dollar homes to tech bros," which she does quite successfully. "I have another late client dinner tonight," she says without looking up from her phone. The screen reflects in her eyes, little blue rectangles of light that seem more alive than her actual gaze when she looks at me these days. "That's the third one this week," I observe, keeping my voice neutral. Years of marriage have taught me that tone matters more than words with Melissa. "Business is booming, Dave. Some of us are trying to build something here." The barb lands exactly where she intended. My steady IT job at a mid-sized firm doesn't have the glamour of her real estate empire, but it pays our mortgage just fine. Her phone buzzes. She glances at it, and her lips curve into a smile I haven't seen directed at me in months. "Sorry, important client." She types rapidly, her thumbs dancing across the screen with the kind of enthusiasm she used to show when texting me during our early dating days. Those days feel like they happen to different people now. "Which client?" I ask, though I'm not sure why I bother. "Marshall Keating. He's looking at some high-end properties in Bellevue." She finally looks up, and for a moment I see something flicker across her face. Guilt? Excitement? It's gone before I can analyze it. He's very serious about finding the right place. Marshall Mars Keating. I've heard that name more frequently lately, always accompanied by Melissa's sudden brightness, like someone switched on a light behind her eyes. According to her, he's a property developer with deep pockets and expensive taste. According to my growing suspicions, he's something else entirely. "What kind of development does he do?" I ask. "Residential, mostly. Luxury condos, high-end renovations." She's back to her phone, already losing interest in our conversation. You wouldn't know his work. Another little cut. Melissa has perfected the art of making me feel small without saying anything overtly cruel. It's death by 1,000 paper cuts, each one tiny enough to ignore, but collectively they're bleeding me dry. I finish my coffee and grab my laptop bag. "I'll probably work late tonight, too. Server maintenance." Mm-hmm. She doesn't look up. I pause at the door, watching her. She's beautiful in that polished, professional way that photographs well for her real estate marketing materials. Blonde hair in a perfect bob, skin that glows with expensive skincare products, clothes that fit like they were tailored specifically for her body. She looks like success, and maybe that's the problem. Maybe I look like settling. The drive to work gives me time to think, which lately has become dangerous territory. My mind keeps circling back to small inconsistencies in Melissa's stories, changes in her routine, the way she guards her phone like it contains state secrets. I tell myself I'm being paranoid, that marriage naturally evolves from passionate romance to comfortable companionship. But comfortable doesn't explain why she flinches when I touch her shoulder, or why she started doing laundry separately so I won't see her clothes. My best friend Brian Sanderson owns a bar called The Anchor, a dive that serves craft beer to neighborhood regulars who appreciate honest drinks and honest conversation. I stop by after work, needing someone to talk to who isn't paid to be polite to me. "You look like someone stole your lunch money," Brian says, sliding a beer across the scarred wooden bar. He's built like a bouncer but has the temperament of a therapist, which makes him perfect for the bar business. "Marriage troubles," I admit. "Melissa still working those late nights?" I nod, surprised he's noticed. "Client dinners? A lot of them lately." Brian wipes down a glass with more attention than it requires. "Dave, you know I mind my own business, but... Mrs. Pruitt was in here last weekend. You know how she talks." Mrs. Pruitt runs our neighborhood's unofficial intelligence network through a combination of strategic window positioning and an active social media presence. If something's happening within a 5-mile radius, she knows about it. "What did she say?" "She mentioned seeing Melissa's car at the Fairmont downtown. Multiple times, middle of the day, not evening client dinner times." The beer suddenly tastes flat. "Maybe she's showing properties nearby." "Maybe." Brian doesn't sound convinced. "Look, I'm probably wrong, but if you need someone to talk to, I'm here." I drive home through the rain, Brian's words echoing in my head. The Fairmont is Seattle's most expensive hotel, the kind of place where people go for special occasions or private meetings they don't want to have in public. It's not near any residential properties Melissa would be showing. Our house sits in the middle of a street full of similar homes, two-story suburban dreams with small yards and big mortgages. It's the kind of neighborhood where people know each other's business, whether they want to or not. Mrs. Pruitt's house, directly across from ours, has windows that face our driveway like security cameras. Melissa's car isn't in the garage when I arrive. I check my phone, no messages about working even later. I heat up leftover Chinese food and eat alone at our kitchen table, listening to the rain and the quiet hum of our refrigerator. She comes home at 10:30, her cheeks flushed and her hair slightly mussed despite the careful styling from this morning. She smells like expensive wine and unfamiliar cologne. "How was the client dinner?" I ask. "Productive. Mars is very interested in a property on the east side." She kicks off her heels and heads toward the stairs. "I'm exhausted. Going to bed?" "I thought you said the property was in Bellevue." She pauses on the third step. "East side, Bellevue, same area." "Not really. East side covers a lot of territory." She turns to look at me, and for a moment her mask slips. I see irritation, maybe even anger. "Does it matter, Dave? I showed properties. We discussed his needs. He's a serious buyer. That's my job." "I know. Just what? Want to interrogate me about every detail of my workday? I don't ask you about every server you fix or every line of code you write." The comparison stings because it's designed to. Her work involves million-dollar deals and sophisticated clients. Mine involves making sure people can access their email, but her defensiveness feels disproportionate to my simple question. "I was just making conversation," I say. "Well, don't. I'm tired." She continues upstairs, and I hear our bedroom door close with more force than necessary. I sit in the kitchen for another hour, staring at my phone and fighting the urge to call Brian back. Outside, Mrs. Pruitt's living room light is still on, and I wonder what she's seen that she hasn't told me yet. In a neighborhood like ours, secrets have a way of surfacing eventually. The next morning, Melissa is already gone when I wake up. There's no note, no text message, just the lingering scent of her perfume and an empty coffee cup in the sink. I check our shared calendar on my phone. Nothing scheduled for early morning appointments. At work, I find myself distracted, making stupid mistakes on routine tasks. My colleague Jennifer notices and asks if everything's okay. I tell her I'm fine, but the lie feels obvious even to me. During lunch, I do something I've never done before. I create a fake social media account and search for Marshall Keating. His profile is exactly what I expected. Expensive car photos, restaurant check-ins at places that don't list prices on their menus, pictures of himself in tailored suits standing next to sold signs. He's handsome in an obvious way. Square jaw, perfect teeth, the kind of tan that comes from golf courses and vacation homes. He looks like the sort of man Melissa thought she was getting when she married me, before reality set in. I scroll through his recent posts and find a photo from last night. A wine glass and expensive appetizers at a restaurant I recognize. It's the same restaurant Melissa claimed to have client dinners at twice this week. The timestamp matches when she said she was working late. My hands shake as I close the browser. Seeing the evidence makes it real in a way that suspicions never could. My wife is having an affair, and she's not even being particularly careful about hiding it. I spend the rest of the day planning. Not confrontation, not yet. I need more information, more proof, more understanding of exactly what I'm dealing with. If Melissa thinks she can play games with our marriage, she's about to learn that underestimating the quiet IT guy is a serious mistake. That evening, I call Lila, the manager at Melissa's favorite restaurant. We went to high school together, and she's always been friendly when Melissa and I dine there. "Dave, how are you? We haven't seen you and Melissa in a while." That's actually why I'm calling. I want to surprise her tomorrow night. She's been working so hard lately, all these client dinners. I thought I'd send over a special bottle of wine with a romantic message. That's so sweet. What kind of message? I take a deep breath. Something like, "You're the one who's been lying." Make it sound romantic when you deliver it, like it's an inside joke between us. There's a pause. "Dave, that doesn't sound very romantic." "Trust me, she'll understand. It's from a song we both love." The lie comes easily, which surprises me. "Can you do it?" "Sure, I guess." "What kind of wine?" "Her favorite. The expensive Bordeaux she always orders. And Lila, make sure you deliver it personally and watch her reaction. I want to know if she likes the surprise." After I hang up, I text Melissa. "Thinking of you. Hope your client dinner goes well tonight." She responds an hour later. "Thanks. We'll be late again. Don't wait up." I don't wait up, but I don't sleep either. I lie in our bed, staring at the ceiling and listening for her car in the driveway. She comes home after midnight, moving quietly through the house like a burglar trying not to wake the residents. The next evening, I wait. At 7:30, my phone rings. Dave? Melissa's voice is shaky, higher pitched than usual. We need to talk. Now. I'm at home. Where are you? I'm coming home. Don't go anywhere. She arrives 20 minutes later, her face pale and her hands trembling as she sets down her purse. She looks like someone who's just received terrible news, which I suppose she has. What did you do? She asks. I sent my wife a romantic message. Did you like it? Her composure crumbles. How long have you known? Long enough? I lean back in my chair, surprised by how calm I feel. The question is, how long has it been going on? Dave, I can explain. Can you? Because I'm really curious about the explanation. Are you going to tell me that Marshall Keating is actually a client? That all those hotel visits were for business? That you've been working late every night because the real estate market is just that demanding? She sinks into the chair across from me, and for a moment she looks like the woman I married. Vulnerable, uncertain, human. Then her expression hardens. You're not the man I married, she says. Thank God for small favors. I mean it, Dave. You've become comfortable, safe, boring. And Mars is exciting? Yes. The word hits like a slap. He makes me feel alive again. He makes me feel like I matter. And I don't? When's the last time you surprised me? When's the last time you planned something special, or made me laugh, or made me feel like you actually wanted me instead of just expected me to be there? Her words sting because they contain just enough truth to hurt. I have become comfortable, maybe even complacent, but that doesn't justify what she's done. So instead of talking to me about it, you decided to have an affair. It wasn't supposed to happen. It just did. How long? 3 months. 3 months of lies, 3 months of late nights and fake client dinners and coming home smelling like another man. 3 months of me making excuses for her behavior while she was busy betraying everything we built together. Are you leaving me for him? She looks away. I don't know. Maybe. He's talked about us moving in together. Where? His place? Actually, she hesitates. He likes this house, the neighborhood, the layout. He thinks it would be perfect for us. The audacity takes my breath away. He wants to move into our house? It's not like that. It's exactly like that. You're planning to kick me out of my own home so you can play house with your boyfriend. Dave, please, get out. What? Get out of my house. Tonight. Go stay with Mars, or your sister, or whoever. But don't sleep in our bed tonight. She stares at me like I've grown a second head. You can't kick me out. This is my house, too. Actually, I can. The mortgage is in my name. The deed is in my name. You wanted excitement? Congratulations. You just got it. She leaves an hour later with a suitcase and a string of threats about lawyers and divorce proceedings. I watch her drive away, then I pour myself a drink and start planning. Rule number 1. Never play chess with someone who thinks they're holding all the pieces. Melissa and Mars are about to learn that the quiet IT guy has been playing a much longer game than they realized. The house feels different without Melissa in it. Bigger somehow, but also more mine. I wake up Wednesday morning in the center of our king-sized bed for the first time in years, no longer confined to my designated side like a well-trained pet. The silence is profound and surprisingly peaceful. My phone shows 3 missed calls from Melissa and a text message. We need to talk like adults. I'm coming by at lunch. I text back, no, you made your choice? Live with it. At work, I can barely concentrate on code reviews and system updates. My mind keeps circling back to Melissa's casual mention that Mars likes our house, that he thinks it would be perfect for them. The sheer arrogance of it amazes me. They're not just planning to destroy my marriage. They want to steal my home in the process. During my lunch break, I call my sister Trina. She runs a tattoo parlor downtown and has never liked Melissa, though she's been diplomatic enough not to say so directly until now. I always knew that woman was trouble, she says after I explain the situation. Too polished, too perfect. People like that are usually hiding something. I need a favor, I tell her. I need you to do some research on Marshall Keating. Social media, public records, whatever you can find. I want to know everything about this guy. Planning some revenge? Planning some justice. There's a difference. Not much of one, but I'm in. Nobody messes with my big brother. That afternoon, I get a call from Brian at the bar. You might want to come in tonight. Mrs. Pruitt is here, and she's got information you need to hear. I arrive at the Anchor to find Mrs. Pruitt holding court at a corner table, a glass of white wine in front of her and a tablet displaying what looks like surveillance photos. She's 72 years old with silver hair and the sharp eyes of someone who's made neighborhood watch her personal mission. "Dave, honey, sit down," she says, patting the chair beside her. "We need to have a talk." Brian brings me a beer and settles in across from us. "Tell him what you told me, Mrs. P." She swipes through photos on her tablet, images of Melissa's car in our driveway, but not alone. A black Jeep Wrangler with custom rims sits beside it in several shots, always during daytime hours when I would have been at work. "I started taking pictures when I noticed the pattern," Mrs. Pruitt explains. "Every Tuesday and Thursday for the past month, sometimes Fridays. The man drives an expensive vehicle and dresses like he thinks he's important." She shows me a photo of Mars himself, climbing out of his Jeep in our driveway. He's wearing a golf shirt and khakis, looking completely at home as he walks toward my front door. The timestamp shows last Thursday at 2:17 p.m. "They weren't even trying to hide it," I mutter. "Oh, it gets worse," Mrs. Pruitt continues. "I heard him on the phone yesterday. He parks right across from my kitchen window, and he talks loud. He was telling someone that he'd be moving into the Harker place soon, that it was all worked out with his girlfriend." The beer tastes like ash in my mouth. "He said that?" "Word for word. Then he laughed and said something about upgrading to a better neighborhood and how the husband doesn't even know what's coming." Brian leans forward. "Dave, this guy isn't just sleeping with your wife. He's planning to take over your entire life." I study the photos, my anger crystallizing into something colder and more focused. Mars looks smug in every shot, like a man who's convinced he's already won. Melissa appears in a few images, always smiling, always touching him in ways she hasn't touched me in months. "Mrs. Pruitt, can you send me copies of these photos?" "Already done, honey. They're in your email." She pats my hand with maternal concern. "What are you going to do?" "I'm going to make them regret underestimating me." That evening, I start phase 1 of what I'm already thinking of as the Mars Project. I spend 3 hours researching property records, business licenses, and court filings. Marshall Keating owns a small development company that's been struggling financially for the past 2 years. He's been sued twice by contractors for non-payment and once by investors for misrepresenting project timelines. More interesting is his personal life. Trina texts me a goldmine of information. Mars has been married twice before, both marriages ending in messy divorces involving infidelity accusations. His first ex-wife, Clarice, has a very active social media presence where she occasionally posts warnings about narcissistic men who prey on successful women. I create a detailed timeline of Mars and Melissa's affair, cross-referencing Mrs. Pruitt's photos with Melissa's claimed work schedule and Mars's social media posts. The pattern is clear. They've been meeting at our house regularly, probably having closeness in our bed, planning their future together while I paid the mortgage and utilities. My phone rings at 10 p.m. Melissa's name appears on the screen. "Dave, please. We need to work this out like reasonable people." "Reasonable people don't have affairs in their spouse's bed." "How did you—" She catches herself. "It's not what you think." "It's exactly what I think. Mars has been coming to our house twice a week for a month. Mrs. Pruitt has photos." Silence. Then, "You had me watched?" "I didn't have to. You were careless. Both of you." "Dave, I know you're hurt, but we can handle this maturely. We can work out a fair division of assets. Let me guess. You get the house, and I get to start over with nothing." "The house would be better suited for Mars and me. His business requires a certain image." I hang up. The audacity is breathtaking. She's not even pretending to be sorry. She's negotiating the terms of my surrender. I pour myself a scotch and sit in my living room, looking around at the space Melissa and Mars have already mentally redecorated. The furniture we picked out together, the photos of our wedding and vacations, the life we built that apparently wasn't good enough for her. My laptop chimes with a new email. It's from an address I don't recognize, but the subject line gets my attention. Information about Marshall Keating. The sender identifies herself as Clarice Keating, Mars's first ex-wife. She's seen my fake social media profile viewing Mars's posts and somehow tracked me down. "I don't know who you are, but if you're investigating Mars, you probably have good reason. He's a predator who targets women with money and stability, then bleeds them dry before moving on to the next victim. I'd be happy to share what I know if you're interested in stopping him." I stare at the email for a long time before responding. "I'm interested. Let's talk." We arrange to meet the next evening at a coffee shop in Bellevue, neutral territory where neither of us is likely to run into Mars or Melissa. Clarice turns out to be an attractive brunette in her mid-30s, professionally dressed and articulate. She looks like the kind of woman who doesn't suffer fools gladly. Mars has a pattern, she explains over lattes. He targets married women with successful careers and stable finances. He presents himself as successful and sophisticated, but his business is always on the verge of bankruptcy. He uses charm and attention to seduce them, then gradually moves into their lives and their bank accounts. What happened with you? I was a marketing director at a tech company when we met. He convinced me to leave my husband, said we were soulmates, that he'd never felt this way about anyone before. Within 6 months of moving in together, he'd maxed out my credit cards, convinced me to take out loans for his business investments, and started cheating with his next target. The story sounds depressingly familiar. How did you find out? The same way your wife will eventually find out. Mars can't help himself. He always has a backup plan, another woman waiting in the wings. Right now, your wife is his primary target, but he's already cultivating the next one. She shows me photos on her phone. Mars at various social events and restaurants, always with different women, always looking charming and attentive. One recent photo shows him with a redhead I don't recognize, their body language suggesting intimate familiarity. This was taken last weekend, Clarice says. While he was supposedly building a future with your wife, he was also building a future with someone else. I feel a strange mix of vindication and pity. Melissa thinks she's found her exciting new life, but she's actually just the latest mark in Mars's ongoing con game. What do you want from me? I ask. I want to see him exposed. I want his victims to know what they're dealing with before he destroys their lives completely. Her smile is sharp, and I want to watch him fail for once. We spend the next hour planning. Clarice has documentation of Mars's financial problems, evidence of his pattern of targeting married women, and contact information for his other victims. I have proof of the affair, detailed timelines, and access to Melissa's professional network through social media. The key is timing, Clarice explains. Mars is most vulnerable when he's overconfident, when he thinks he's already won. Right now, he believes he's successfully stealing your life. That's when we strike. I drive home feeling energized for the first time in months. Mars and Melissa think they're playing a game where they hold all the cards, but they don't know about Clarice, or Mrs. Pruitt's surveillance, or the fact that the quiet IT guy has been building a case against them. My phone buzzes with a text from Melissa. Mars and I looked at apartments today. We found a place we both love, but we'd prefer to stay in the house. Can we discuss terms? I text back, the only terms I'm interested in discussing involve you and your boyfriend learning what consequences feel like. She responds immediately. Don't be vindictive, Dave. It doesn't suit you. I smile as I type my reply. You have no idea what suits me. You never bothered to find out. That night, I sleep better than I have in months. Tomorrow, Phase 2 of the Mars project begins, and Mars Keating is about to discover that stealing someone's life is more complicated than he thought. Friday morning arrives gray and drizzling. Perfect weather for what I have planned. I call in sick to work. The first time I've used a personal day for anything more exciting than food poisoning. Today marks the beginning of Mars and Melissa's education in consequences. My first stop is the bank, where I execute a plan I've been developing since Wednesday night. The joint checking and savings accounts that Melissa and I share are legally mine to access, and I transfer every penny into a new account in my name only. It's not stealing, it's protecting assets during a marital dispute. Melissa's name is on the accounts, but the money came from my salary and my inheritance from my grandmother. Next, I visit our mortgage company and insurance provider. I can't remove Melissa from the deed without her consent, but I can ensure she has no access to account information or the ability to make changes. I also discover something interesting. Melissa forged my signature on a home equity loan application last month. The loan was denied, but the attempted fraud gives me legal ammunition if I need it. My phone rings as I'm leaving the insurance office. Melissa's name flashes on the screen. Dave, what did you do? I can't access our bank accounts. You can't access my bank accounts. There's a difference. That money belongs to both of us. Actually, it doesn't. Check the account agreements you never bothered to read. The money comes from my salary, deposited into accounts I opened before we were married. You have signature privileges, not ownership rights. You can't do this. I already did. Maybe Mars can help you with expenses while you figure out your next move. I hang up and immediately call the utility companies. Gas, electric, water, internet, cable. I cancel everything effective Monday morning. The house will become unlivable, just as Mars is planning to move in. Phase 2 requires a trip to the grocery store, specifically the seafood counter. I purchase 2 pounds of medium shrimp, the kind that smell terrible when they decompose. The teenage clerk asks if I need them cleaned and prepared. No thanks, I tell him. I have special plans for them. That evening, I park 3 blocks from my house and walk through the neighborhood, staying in shadows and avoiding Mrs. Pruitt's sightlines. I need her as an ally, not a witness to what comes next. Mars's black Jeep sits in my driveway like a middle finger pointed at the sky. Custom rims, tinted windows, a vanity license plate that reads Marsone. Everything about it screams insecurity and overcompensation. I circle the vehicle, noting details. The exhaust pipe is easily accessible, the windows are slightly cracked open, and there's no security system beyond the standard factory alarm. Working quickly, I stuff raw shrimp into the exhaust pipe, packing them deep enough that they won't fall out, but shallow enough that they'll cook when the engine heats up. I place more shrimp under the floor mats through the cracked windows and a few choice pieces in the air conditioning vents. The beauty of this particular revenge is its subtlety. The smell won't be noticeable immediately, but as the shrimp decompose and the weather warms up, Mars's precious Jeep will become uninhabitable. More importantly, the odor will cling to his clothes and follow him everywhere, marking him as surely as a scarlet letter. I'm back home within 30 minutes, and I settle in to wait. Mars and Melissa emerge from my house around 11 p.m., laughing and touching each other with the casual intimacy of people who think they've gotten away with something. They don't notice me watching from the darkened living room window as Mars starts his Jeep and drives away. Saturday morning brings the first phone call. Mars's voice is angry and confused. Someone vandalized my car. It smells like rotting fish, and I can't get rid of the stench. I can hear Melissa in the background, asking questions. Mars explains that he's had the Jeep detailed twice, but the smell keeps getting worse. He's convinced someone at his apartment complex is playing a prank. Maybe you should park somewhere else, Melissa suggests. I shouldn't have to change my routine because some asshole wants to play games. I smile, sipping my coffee and listening to Mars's frustration through Melissa's phone. He has no idea that his troubles are just beginning. Sunday brings validation. Mrs. Pruitt calls to report that Mars's Jeep was parked in my driveway again, but this time she could smell it from across the street. It was awful, Dave, like something died in there. The poor man kept rolling down the windows and spraying air freshener, but nothing helped. That's terrible, I say, trying to keep the satisfaction out of my voice. I hope he figures out what's wrong. The whole neighborhood is talking about it. Mrs. Chen said she saw him at the car wash 3 times yesterday, but the smell just keeps getting worse. Perfect. Mars's signature vehicle has become a neighborhood joke, and his attempts to fix the problem are only drawing more attention to his predicament. Monday morning brings the second phase of my plan into focus. With the utilities scheduled for disconnection, my house will become uninhabitable by evening. But first, I need to document everything for the divorce proceedings that are surely coming. I hire Vince Morrison, a private security specialist who used to be a cop before starting his own investigation business. He's built like a linebacker and has the kind of steady competence that comes from years of dealing with people's worst behavior. I need surveillance on my house, I explain. My wife is having an affair, and I want documentation of everyone who comes and goes. Standard adultery case, Vince nods. How long has this been going on? 3 months that I know of, but I think there's more to it than just an affair. I think her boyfriend is planning to move into my house. Vince raises an eyebrow. Bold strategy. Stupid, but bold. Within 2 hours, Vince has installed discrete cameras covering all approaches to my house. The system feeds to an app on my phone, giving me real-time surveillance of my own property. More importantly, everything is recorded and time-stamped, creating legal documentation of Mars and Melissa's activities. The cameras prove their worth immediately. At 1:30 p.m., while I'm at work, Mars's stinking Jeep pulls into my driveway. He and Melissa emerge from the house carrying boxes, my belongings, being moved out to make room for his stuff. I watch through my phone as they load my books, my tools, my personal items into Mars's reeking vehicle. The irony is perfect. Mars is so eager to claim my life that he's willing to endure the stench of decomposing seafood to do it. But the best part comes at 3:45 p.m. A utility truck arrives and a worker begins disconnecting the electrical service. Mars comes running out of the house, gesticulating wildly and pointing at the worker's clipboard. I can't hear the conversation, but Mars's body language tells the story. Confusion, anger, and growing realization that someone has outmaneuvered him. Melissa appears beside him, her phone pressed to her ear. She's probably calling the utility company, only to discover that the account holder, me, has canceled service effective immediately. My own phone rings 5 minutes later. What did you do? Melissa's voice is shrill with panic. I canceled utilities for my house. Was there something you needed? You can't do this. We're living here. No, you're trespassing there. I live there. You moved out, remember? Dave, be reasonable. Mars has already started moving his things in. Then Mars had better start moving his things out, because as of 6 p.m. tonight, there won't be any power, water, or heat. You're being vindictive. I'm being practical. Why would I pay utilities for a house where my wife and her boyfriend are playing house? The call ends with Melissa screaming threats about lawyers and lawsuits. I save the recording. Washington is a one-party consent state, so I can legally record any conversation I'm part of. By evening, the house is dark and cold. I park down the street and watch through Vince's camera feeds as Mars and Melissa realize the extent of their problem. Without electricity, the house is uninhabitable. Without water, the toilets don't flush and the shower doesn't work. Without gas, there's no heat or hot water. Mars makes 3 trips to his Jeep, each time holding his breath against the stench as he loads more boxes. Melissa follows, her designer clothes completely inappropriate for manual labor, her perfect hair wilting in the humidity. The final humiliation comes when Mars tries to start his Jeep and the engine coughs, sputters, and dies. The decomposing shrimp in the exhaust pipe have finally done their work, creating enough back pressure to stall the engine. Mars pops the hood and stares at the engine like it's written in a foreign language. I watch him call a tow truck, then stand in my driveway arguing with Melissa while they wait for help to arrive. Even through the camera feed, I can see the strain in their body language, the way crisis reveals the cracks in their perfect romance. The tow truck arrives an hour later, and Mars's precious Jeep is hauled away like the piece of overpriced junk it always was. Mars and Melissa are left standing in my dark driveway with boxes of belongings and no way to transport them. They end up calling an Uber, loading what they can carry, and abandoning the rest. As their ride disappears into the night, I feel a deep satisfaction that has nothing to do with revenge and everything to do with justice. My phone buzzes with a text from Melissa. This isn't over. I text back, You're absolutely right. This is just the beginning. Tomorrow, Phase 3 begins, and Marshall Keating is about to learn that his problems extend far beyond a smelly car and a house without utilities. He's about to discover what happens when you try to steal from someone who's smarter, more patient, and significantly more vindictive than you expected. Tuesday morning brings news that Mars's Jeep has been totaled by the tow truck company. Apparently, the smell was so overwhelming that the driver refused to keep it on his lot, and when Mars couldn't afford the immediate repair costs, they had it condemned as a health hazard and sent to a scrapyard. Clarice calls with an update on her investigation. Mars is desperate, she reports. He's been calling his ex-girlfriends asking for loans, claiming he has a temporary cash flow problem. Nobody's buying it. How temporary? Based on the court documents I found, he's about 3 weeks away from bankruptcy. His development company owes money to contractors, suppliers, and investors. He was counting on moving in with Melissa to reduce his expenses while he figured out his next con. The timeline makes sense. Mars wasn't just stealing my wife. He was stealing my house as a solution to his financial problems. The affair was business as much as pleasure. There's something else, Clarice continues. I found his current backup plan. Her name is Rebecca Torres. She's a divorce attorney in Bellevue, and Mars has been cultivating her for about 6 weeks. I have photos of them together at restaurants and hotels. While he's been with Melissa? While he's been telling Melissa they're building a future together. Rebecca thinks she's his only girlfriend. Melissa thinks she's his only girlfriend. Mars is playing them both. The information is perfect ammunition, but I need to deploy it strategically. Mars and Melissa are already stressed from last night's utility disaster. Now I need to apply pressure in a way that exposes them publicly and destroys their credibility in our social circle. I start with social media. Using my fake account, I begin following Mars's friends, business associates, and social connections. I also friend request several members of Melissa's real estate network, people who know her professionally but don't know me personally. Next, I create a comprehensive timeline document. Photos of Mars's Jeep in my driveway, timestamps of their meetings, screenshots of Mars's social media posts during times he was supposedly in business meetings, and evidence of his financial problems. I package everything into a clean, professional presentation that looks like a legal brief. The genius of social media is that scandal spreads faster than wildfire and burns longer than anyone expects. But I need an accelerant, something that will make people pay attention and share the information widely. That accelerant comes in the form of Jody Brennan, a local reporter who covers real estate and business news for the Seattle Times. She's built a reputation for exposing fraud and corruption in the property development industry, and she's always looking for new stories. I send her an anonymous tip. Marshall Keating, local property developer, has been using extramarital affairs to gain access to assets and properties. I have documentation showing a pattern of predatory behavior targeting married women with valuable real estate holdings. I attach selected evidence, nothing that directly implicates me, but enough to pique her investigative instincts. Reporters love stories about con artists, especially when there's a real estate angle and multiple victims. While I wait for Jody to respond, I implement Phase 3 of the Mars Project, public humiliation through strategic exposure. Mrs. Pruitt has been invaluable as an intelligence asset, but now I need her as a distribution network. I visit her Tuesday evening with a bottle of wine and a carefully edited version of the truth. I wanted to thank you for your help, I tell her, settling into her living room with its perfect view of my house. The photos you took were crucial evidence for my divorce attorney. Oh, honey, I'm so sorry this happened to you. But I have to say, I never trusted that man. Something about him just seemed off. You were right to be suspicious. It turns out he's done this before, multiple times. I show her selected photos from Clarice's collection, Mars, with different women, always in intimate settings, always looking like a man who's gotten away with something. Mrs. Pruitt studies each image with the focused attention of someone who's made gossip her life's work. This is terrible, she says. These poor women have no idea what they're dealing with. The worst part is that he's still doing it. Even while he's with Melissa, he's cultivating other relationships. He thinks he's untouchable. Mrs. Pruitt's expression hardens. Well, we'll see about that. I don't have to ask her to spread the information. Mrs. Pruitt is a force of nature when it comes to neighborhood communication. By Wednesday morning, everyone within a 5-mile radius will know that Marshall Keating is a serial predator who targets married women. Wednesday brings the first cracks in Mars and Melissa's relationship. Vince's surveillance cameras show them arriving at my house in a rental car, Mars's backup vehicle while he deals with the Jeep situation. But instead of the easy intimacy they displayed last week, their body language is tense and argumentative. They spend 2 hours inside the house, probably trying to figure out how to make it livable without utilities. When they emerge, Melissa is crying, and Mars looks like a man who's watching his plans collapse in real time. My phone rings as they drive away. Dave, we need to talk. Melissa's voice is strained, exhausted. I'm listening. Mars says you're sabotaging us, that you're trying to destroy his business and his reputation. Mars says a lot of things. How much of it turns out to be true? Silence. Then, what do you mean? I mean, maybe you should ask Mars about Rebecca Torres, or Jennifer Walsh, or any of the other women he's been seeing while he's been building a future with you. The silence stretches longer this time. I don't know what you're talking about. Ask him, Melissa. Ask him about his pattern of targeting married women with money and property. Ask him about his financial situation and why he's so eager to move into our house. You're lying. Am I? When's the last time Mars paid for dinner? When's the last time he took you somewhere that wasn't paid for with your credit card? Another pause. Dave, ask him about the bankruptcy filing, Melissa. Ask him why his business is failing and why he needs a place to live rent-free while he finds his next mark. I hang up, knowing I've planted seeds of doubt that will grow into full-blown suspicion. Mars's charm offensive only works when his targets don't ask hard questions. Once they start investigating, his house of cards collapses quickly. Thursday morning brings vindication in the form of a phone call from Jody Brennan. I got your tip about Marshall Keating, she says. I've been investigating property developers for a series I'm writing, and his name has come up before. Can we meet? We arrange to have coffee that afternoon. Jody turns out to be a sharp-eyed woman in her 40s with the kind of persistent curiosity that makes politicians nervous. She's already done preliminary research on Mars's business dealings and found multiple red flags. His development company is essentially a shell, she explains. He takes deposits from investors, starts projects he can't finish, then uses new investor money to pay old debts. It's a classic Ponzi scheme, but applied to real estate development. What about his personal life? That's where it gets interesting. I found 3 women who filed complaints with the Better Business Bureau about Mars, but not for business reasons. They all claim he seduced them during real estate transactions, convinced them to invest in his projects, then disappeared with their money. She shows me printed emails and legal documents. Mars's pattern is consistent. Identify a target with assets, seduce her away from her current situation, gain access to her finances, then move on to the next victim while leaving the previous one financially and emotionally devastated. The problem is that most of his victims are too embarrassed to go public, Jody continues. Admitting you were conned by a romantic partner feels different than admitting you were conned by a business partner. What if they weren't alone? What if there were multiple victims willing to speak publicly? Jody's eyes light up. That would be a story. Do you have access to other victims? I give her Clarice's contact information and suggest she investigate Mars's current activities. I think you'll find he's actively working on his next targets right now, even while he's supposedly in a committed relationship. That evening, I implement the final phase of my social destruction campaign. I create a detailed post for the neighborhood social media group, carefully worded to avoid legal liability while maximizing reputational damage. Neighbors, I wanted to share some important information about a situation affecting our community. A man named Marshall Keating has been using relationships with married women to gain access to their homes and finances. I have documented evidence of this pattern, including surveillance photos and financial records. If anyone has had dealings with Mr. Keating or has concerns about his activities in our neighborhood, please contact me privately. We need to protect each other from predatory behavior. I attach selected photos, Mars's Jeep in my driveway, timestamps showing his regular presence during work hours, and a few images of him with different women that don't identify anyone specifically but demonstrate a pattern of behavior. The response is immediate and overwhelming. Within 2 hours, I have messages from 8 neighbors sharing their own observations and concerns. Mrs. Chen saw Mars going through my mailbox. Mr. Rodriguez noticed him taking photos of other houses in the neighborhood. Mrs. Williams saw him arguing with Melissa in my driveway, and she thought his behavior seemed aggressive and controlling. More importantly, 3 women from Melissa's real estate network contact me directly. Mars had approached each of them with investment opportunities, always after learning details about their personal finances and marital situations. None of them invested, but all of them felt uncomfortable with his persistent attention and inappropriate questions. By Friday morning, the neighborhood social media group has exploded with discussion about Mars Keating. The conversation has taken on a life of its own, with people sharing their own experiences and warning others to be cautious. Someone found his business license records and posted screenshots showing his financial problems. Someone else found his divorce records and shared details about his previous wife's allegations. Mars and Melissa are now the subject of active community surveillance and discussion. Their private affair has become public scandal, and their reputations are being destroyed in real time by people who've never met me but recognize predatory behavior when they see it. My phone buzzes with a text from Melissa. "What have you done? Everyone is talking about us. Mars is furious." I text back, "I told the truth. If that's a problem for you, maybe you should reconsider your choice of boyfriend." She responds, "This has to stop. People are calling my office, asking questions about Mars. It's affecting my business." Actions have consequences, Melissa. You chose to have an affair with a con artist. Now you get to deal with the fallout. The final text comes an hour later. Mars wants to meet with you to work this out like men. I smile as I type my response. Tell Mars I'll see him at the neighborhood block party on Saturday. We can work it out in front of everyone. The annual neighborhood block party is scheduled for this weekend, a community gathering where everyone brings food and drinks to share while kids play in the street and adults catch up on local gossip. This year, it's going to be more entertaining than anyone expected. Mars Keating wanted to steal my life, but he's about to learn that some things can't be taken by force. Respect has to be earned, trust has to be built, and reputation has to be maintained. He's failed at all three, and Saturday's block party is going to be his final exam in consequences. Saturday morning dawns clear and warm. Perfect weather for the annual neighborhood block party. I wake up early and spend an hour preparing for what I know will be the final confrontation with Mars and Melissa. Today, everything comes to a head in front of the entire community that's been watching their drama unfold. I dress carefully, khakis, a polo shirt, and sneakers that will give me good traction if things get physical. Not that I'm planning violence, but Mars has been growing increasingly desperate, and desperate men make unpredictable choices. The block party setup begins at 9 a.m. Our street gets blocked off at both ends, and neighbors start dragging tables, chairs, and grills into the road. Kids appear with bicycles and sidewalk chalk, while adults begin the complex social dance of community gathering, figuring out who's bringing what food, where to set up the drinks, and how to arrange seating so that friends can cluster together while avoiding people they'd rather not talk to. Mrs. Pruitt has positioned herself at the strategic center of the festivities, her table loaded with homemade cookies and her tablet ready to document whatever drama unfolds. She gives me a knowing nod as I set up my own contribution, a cooler full of beer and a folding chair positioned with a clear view of my driveway. "Big day today," she says, offering me a chocolate chip cookie that tastes like childhood. "Should be interesting," I agree. By 11 a.m., the party is in full swing. About 60 people from the surrounding blocks have gathered, creating the kind of multi-generational community event that makes suburban life appealing. Children run between the adults' legs while teenagers cluster in self-conscious groups and parents try to balance supervision with socialization. That's when Mars and Melissa arrive. They park the rental car at the far end of the street and walk toward the party like condemned prisoners approaching the gallows. Every conversation stops as they pass, creating a wave of silence that follows them through the crowd. Mars is trying to project confidence, but his body language screams tension. Melissa looks like she hasn't slept in days. "Dave," Mars calls out when he spots me. His voice carries across the suddenly quiet gathering. "We need to talk." "I'm listening," I reply, not moving from my chair. Mars approaches with Melissa trailing behind him. Up close, I can see the strain of the past week etched in his face. His usual polish is gone, replaced by the desperate energy of a man whose carefully constructed facade is crumbling. "This has gone far enough," he says. "You've made your point. Now let's work out a reasonable solution like adults." "What kind of solution did you have in mind?" "Melissa and I are in love. We want to be together. You can't change that by playing these childish games." Murmurs ripple through the crowd. Everyone is listening now, the pretense of private conversation abandoned in favor of community theater. Childish games? I stand up, my voice carrying clearly in the morning air. "Is that what you call exposing a con artist who preys on married women?" Mars's face flushes red. "I'm not a con artist. I'm a legitimate businessman who fell in love with your wife." "Really?" "Let's talk about your business, Mars. Tell everyone here about your development company's financial situation. Tell them about the investors you've defrauded and the contractors you've stiffed." "That's private business information." "It's public record." I pull out my phone and access the documents Jody Brennan shared with me. "Your company has been sued 6 times in the past 2 years for non-payment of debts. You owe over $200,000 to creditors. Your business license is under review by the State Attorney General's office." The crowd presses closer, sensing drama. Mars looks around desperately, realizing he's lost control of the narrative. "Even if that's true, it has nothing to do with my relationship with Melissa." "Doesn't it? Tell everyone why you were so eager to move into my house, Mars. Tell them about your eviction notice and your repossessed car." Melissa steps forward, her face pale. "Dave, please tell them about Rebecca Torres, Melissa. Ask Mars about the other woman he's been seeing while he's been planning your future together." Mars spins to face me, his composure finally cracking. "You son of a bitch. Ask him, Melissa. Ask him about the divorce attorney in Bellevue he's been dating for 6 weeks. Ask him about the hotel receipts and the restaurant bills he's been charging to her credit card." Melissa turns to Mars, her expression shifting from embarrassment to confusion to dawning realization. "Mars, is that true? It's not what you think?" "It's exactly what she thinks," I interrupt. "Mars has a pattern. Everyone. He targets married women with money and property, seduces them away from their husbands, gains access to their assets, then moves on to the next victim. Melissa isn't his girlfriend. She's his current mark." The crowd has formed a complete circle around us now, neighbors and their children watching the drama unfold like a live television show. Mars looks around at the sea of faces, all of them hostile or curious or simply entertained by his public humiliation. "This is insane," he says, his voice rising. "You people are believing the lies of a bitter ex-husband who can't accept that his wife found someone better." "Someone better?" I laugh, and several neighbors join in. "Mars, your car was condemned as a health hazard. You're 3 weeks from bankruptcy. You've been evicted from 2 apartments this year. In what universe are you an upgrade from anyone?" Mars's face turns purple with rage. "You think you're so smart, don't you? Sitting there with your little IT job and your boring suburban life, thinking you deserve a woman like Melissa." "I never deserved Melissa," I agree. "I was faithful, supportive, and honest. Clearly those aren't qualities she values." Melissa flinches as if I've slapped her. Around us, the crowd murmurs approval. In a community built on middle-class values like loyalty and hard work, adultery and deception don't play well. "But here's the thing, Mars," I continue. "You don't deserve her either. You don't deserve anyone. You're a parasite who feeds on other people's success and stability. You contribute nothing, create nothing, and build nothing. You just take until there's nothing left to take, then you move on to the next victim." Mars takes a step toward me, his hands clenched into fists. "You want to settle this like a man?" The crowd tenses, sensing potential violence. Several of the larger men in the neighborhood shift position, ready to intervene if necessary, but I remain seated, completely calm. "We already settled it, Mars. You lost." "I didn't lose anything." "You lost your car, your apartment, your business credibility, and your girlfriend." I gesture toward Melissa, who's backing away from Mars with growing alarm. You lost your reputation in this community and your access to future victims. You lost everything that mattered to your little con game. Mars lunges toward me, but he's telegraphing his movements so obviously that I have plenty of time to stand up and step aside. His momentum carries him past me and directly into Mrs. Chen's folding table, which collapses under his weight and sends potato salad flying across the asphalt. The crowd erupts in laughter as Mars struggles to untangle himself from the collapsed table, covered in mayonnaise-based side dishes and completely humiliated. Several people are recording the scene with their phones, ensuring that his public meltdown will be preserved for posterity. "That's enough," a new voice cuts through the chaos. Detective Lieutenant Kim from the local police precinct pushes through the crowd, her uniform and badge commanding immediate attention. "Everyone step back and give these people some space." Mrs. Pruitt called the police, I realize. She was probably on the phone the moment Mars raised his voice, ensuring that law enforcement would be present to prevent any serious violence. Lieutenant Kim surveys the scene, Mars covered in potato salad, Melissa crying, me standing calmly beside my overturned chair, and 60 neighbors watching like it's the best entertainment they've had all year. "Mr. Keating," she says, "I think it's time for you to leave." "He started it," Mars protests, pointing at me. "He's been harassing us, sabotaging my property, spreading lies about my business. Mr. Keating, I've reviewed the complaints filed by both parties. Mr. Harker has documented evidence of adultery, trespassing, and attempted financial fraud. You have accusations based on hurt feelings. I suggest you collect your belongings and find somewhere else to be." Mars looks around the crowd one more time, searching for sympathy or support. He finds neither. The neighbors stare back at him with expressions ranging from disgust to amusement, but none of them show any inclination to take his side. "This isn't over," he says, but the words sound hollow even to him. "Yes, it is," I reply. "It's been over since you decided to steal my life instead of building your own." Mars stalks toward the rental car, leaving Melissa standing alone in the middle of the crowd. She looks lost, confused, like someone who's just woken up from a dream and can't remember where she is. "Melissa," I say gently, "you should probably go with him. You two have a lot to figure out." She looks at me with tears streaming down her face. "Dave, I'm so sorry. I never meant for any of this to happen." "Yes, you did. You meant for all of it to happen. You just didn't mean to get caught." She nods slowly, accepting the truth of it. Then she follows Mars to the car, and they drive away together, leaving behind a neighborhood full of people who will remember this day for years to come. The crowd begins to disperse, conversations resuming as people process what they've witnessed. Mrs. Pruitt approaches with a fresh cookie and a satisfied smile. "Well," she says, "that was certainly educational." "It was something," I agree. "What happens now?" I look around at my neighbors, people who've seen me stand up for myself, who've watched me expose a predator and protect my community from future harm. For the first time in months, I feel like I belong somewhere. "Now I get on with my life," I tell her. "The real one, not the one someone else was trying to steal." Lieutenant Kim approaches as the crowd thins out. "Mr. Harker, I want you to know that Mr. Keating and your wife are being investigated for several financial irregularities. The reporter who's been calling our office has provided substantial evidence of fraudulent activity." "Will there be charges?" "That's up to the district attorney, but I'd say it's likely. Mr. Keating has been running the same con in 3 different counties. Eventually, that catches up with you." As the afternoon winds down and the block party returns to normal community celebration, I find myself surrounded by neighbors who want to shake my hand, offer support, and share their own stories about recognizing predatory behavior. I've become something I never expected to be, a local hero who stood up to a bully and won. My phone buzzes with a text from Clarice. "Saw the video on social media, beautifully done. Mars is finished in this city." Another text from Jody Brennan. "My story runs tomorrow. Thank you for the cooperation. Justice served." And finally, a text from Trina. "Proud of you, big brother. Mom and Dad would be too." As the sun sets and the last of the neighbors pack up their tables and chairs, I stand in my driveway looking at my house. Truly my house now, in every sense that matters. Mars and Melissa tried to steal my life, but they only succeeded in helping me discover who I really am underneath all those years of quiet compromise. I'm Dave Harker, and I'm nobody's victim.